All right. A new study shows that people who have sex fewer than a dozen times a year appear more likely to have shorter lifespans. In other words, if you're not getting screwed, then you're getting screwed. Hi, everybody. I'm Kenny Webster. Welcome to another segment of Pursuit of Happiness Radio. Very exciting news. If you're just tuning in, my buddy Steve Toth made a big dang announcement. State Representative Steve Toth is holding an event on Tuesday night. For those of you watching or listening to us live, I'm on social media right now, but I'm also on the radio. And if you are hanging out in the greater Houston area on Tuesday evening, head up to the Grace Woodlands Church, 7 p.m. I'm going to be there. Christian Collins is going to be there. State Representative Steve Toth is going to be there. KTRH news reporter and KPRC talk show host Ethan Buchanan is going to be there.
I guess so.
Hang on, let me turn your mic on. You just found out right now from me.
I just found out right now, but I'll make plans. I'll be there for sure.
I literally just told you right now. There's a lot happening in the news today, but sometimes I feel like on a Monday, one of the problems is we forget so quickly what took place last week, and things get lost in the weeds sometimes. Last week, something remarkable happened, and I want to hyper-focus on it for just a minute, because the news has been moving real fast lately, what with the Epstein files and more war in Ukraine. And I don't know if you've heard about this controversy with the Jews. But
Another one.
There's a lot. It's not the Jews' fault. Or I don't know, I'm not trying to answer that. I'm not trying to solve that dilemma right now. We have problems of our own here in the United States.
Elmo got involved in that. Did you see that?
Yeah,
that was insane.
Well, you're right about that. Over the weekend, someone hacked the Elmo account.
The official PBS Elmo account.
Ethan, before I talk about what I wanted to talk about, which was illegal immigrants, children, and pedophiles working on a marijuana farm in California, which according to the Babylon Bee is now a sanctuary state for child slave labor, thanks to Governor Gavin Newsom.
Yes.
I want to ask you about something, because you're a Zoomer. Over the weekend, Turning Point USA, the students' political action summit they have from time to time, was held in Tampa, Florida. And I have noticed something with how Republicans feel about Israel. Baby boomers love Israel. They're crazy about Israel. They want to defend Israel. They want Israel to be the 51st state. Gen Xers, maybe not as passionate about it, but Gen X Republicans generally more often than not are pro-Israel. They think Israel's awesome. Israel, yes. Hamas, Palestine, no. It should be a one-state solution. That's generally how a lot of Gen Xers feel. Millennials, my generation, is the first generation since the Vietnam War where we've had never-ending wars. My generation is a group of people that for the last 20 years we've been in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Niger. It's pronounced Niger, by the way. I just want to make sure you know that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is, Ethan. But your generation, but my generation's kind of indifferent about Israel. We're either pro-Israel or we don't have a lot of strong opinions about it. Again, I'm talking about the Republicans here. Your generation, over the weekend at Turning Point USA, young Republicans and young conservatives really do not seem to like Israel very much. Now, anecdotal, but I noticed that during the event, Megyn Kelly floated the idea that Epstein was a Mossad agent, and everybody applauded and said, yeah, someone's finally saying it. And other people were there. Tucker Carlson, very critical of Israel. His opinions about Israel, not considered to be controversial by the Turning Point USA audience. And
yeah.
Now, Ethan, go ahead. How old are you? 22?
22.
All right. Explain the Israel controversy to us.
All right.
No, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you to explain what it is about your generation. I'm not even asking you to take a position. Why do you think it is that your generation, young conservatives in their early to mid-20s, are not so much pro-Israel like the older Republicans are?
I think, honestly, it gets down to the... let me summarize this with a meme. I saw a meme
I
this
love a
morning.
meme. That's a good way to start. I love that.
It was a picture of Boromir from Lord of the Rings in sunglasses, and the caption was, "Neither side eats bacon. This isn't my war." And I think that's pretty much the size and shape of it. It's like, we're not Israeli. We're not Palestinians either. So this has nothing to do with us. It's on the other side of the planet. This is not our problem. And on top of that, it's being shoved down our throats. You have to pick a side. The left demands that you side with Israel or with Hamas, and the right demands, the old right, the old guard right, demands you side with Israel. And we're over here thinking, hey, we've got problems on our shores to deal with. We have $37 trillion in debt. We have a housing crisis. We have illegal aliens, thankfully not surging across our border now, but many of them are still here. We want them out. basically we have our own problems to deal with. Let Israel sort out Israel's business. We'll sort out ours. And the more you keep telling us we have to focus on it, the more you keep telling us you have to pick a side and you have to choose Israel, well, the more we're going to be like, okay, well, now we're getting sick of you. We were content to be indifferent, but now you're trying to shove it down our throats, and we're getting more and more turned off to it.
Yeah, okay. So I guess my question for you would be, why do you hate the Jews, Ethan? What is it about? Okay, that's not fair. All right, a better question, I guess, would be this. The way you explain it, it kind of reminds me of the Vietnam War. Back in the 1960s and the 70s, we had the draft, and young men were told, go to Vietnam and kill communists. And young men looked at Vietnam and they looked at communism and they thought, these guys aren't really doing anything to me. It doesn't have anything to do with me. And it pushed young men in the 60s and the 70s hard to the left. It's the reason why right now a lot of these people out protesting Trump are actually geriatric, commie, pinko baby boomers.
I saw that at the No Kings protest. I was there on the ground. I think you and I talked about this. These people were old, and frankly, I was there selling Life Alert buttons just because that's where you go.
That's how you make money. Well, but you're onto something there. Now, the problem with at the time, Vietnam obviously was a left versus right issue in America. Right-wing conservatives in the aftermath of the Korean War and World War II were very pro-military, regime change, foreign nation building, and left-wingers were very much anti-war at the time. And fast forward a little bit, you see that the controversy with Israel is similar, minus one thing. Pro-Israel, anti-Israel isn't always a right-wing versus left-wing thing. There's plenty of people on the right that didn't like Israel, plenty of people on the left that did like Israel, even though we label it as the opposite. It's not necessarily the way it is. But at the same time, young men today have been told, putting Israel aside for a minute, they've been told by the media, by academia, by their high school teachers, by Disney and Hollywood that you're the problem. You young white men are the reason the world's bad. You have privilege. You're mansplaining to us. You're toxic, cisgendered. Your white skin is what's wrong with the planet. And that, just telling young men that who just graduated high school, has pushed them very hard to the right. You're very conservative. You're in your early 20s, and you're not alone. There's a lot of people your age that are like you today.
Yeah, it's almost the underdog syndrome, right? Like, if you're telling me I'm all these things, well then clearly you're already opposed to me, so I might as well oppose you. It's almost like since you don't want me, fine, I'll go over to the right, because they really don't care. Yeah. We don't care what your race is. We care what your ideals are, and their ideals may not line up identically with the right, but they at least have an open door where they can go and learn, okay, what are your political ideas? How does that match up with mine? Versus on the left, where you're told, no, you're not allowed to have a discussion. You're not allowed to maybe disagree with us on these issues. It's top down. If you're on the left, you agree with all of these things. And if you're a straight white man, you're immediately the bad guy, regardless of whether or not you agree with us.
Yeah, okay. I've noticed that when it comes to, I'm going to compare this controversy to abortion for a minute. I've noticed that with abortion, over the last 20 or 30 years, liberals are unwilling to say that after one trimester, 2 trimesters, that's the cutoff point for abortions. Liberals will tell you right up until the day before the baby is born, the abortion's still okay. And I think that's part of the reason why there are so many Republicans and conservatives that have gone the extreme opposite stance. That if it wasn't for the fact that liberals were so extreme on abortion, there'd probably be some conservatives, some right-wingers that would be okay with early-term abortion, right up until the heartbeat, that kind of thing. But because liberals are unwilling to say, after the first trimester, it's too late, it's a life now, don't abort it, it's caused Republicans to take this other extreme stance. And I feel like with Israel, it's kind of the same thing. I think there's a lot of people my age who are millennials that don't care if we help them a little bit, that don't care if we sell them weapons, don't give them weapons for free, right?
Right, yeah.
But because the pro-Israel people are so fervently support Israel no matter what, treat it as though it's a welfare state, unending, never-ending aid, that's caused some people on the right to become anti-Israel, especially in your generation. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And again, I think most people my age, my generation, I think pragmatism is very big. Let's do what works. And so, yeah, like you pointed out, I don't think even most people in my generation, if you just say, hey, Israel is going to give us a bunch of money for our bombs, and then we get to have them do our dirty work and make money off of it, and American lives aren't at risk, most people would be fine with that. Because again, we're pragmatists. If that works, let's go for it.
Right, exactly.
But and that's not the option that's being presented.
A lot of young right-wingers right now are not necessarily paleo-conservatives. They're not necessarily libertarians. They're certainly not neocons. They're definitely not that. So ideologically, like you just explained, they're very pragmatic, which I think is what populism is all about. Populism is about saying, hey, it's not always about free market economics. It's not always about no foreign intervention. It's not always about border security. It's about what works best at that particular moment in time. And I'll admit, even though I don't always agree with Zoomer Republicans, I think that it's very promising to me what's going on right now with the generation just underneath mine, Ethan.
Yeah, it's fun to see being a part of it.
When is your show on the air?
Sundays, 7 p.m. Or, of course, we do the podcast of the Sunday show, which is on Monday. And then, of course, we do an extra Wednesday podcast every Wednesday morning. It's the Next Gen Report. It's wherever you get your podcast. Check it out.
I love that. I'm going to take a quick break. If you're watching us on social media right now, we're not going anywhere. We'll be back literally seconds from now. If you're listening on the radio, stick around. More with me and Ethan Buchanan right after this. We're going to go to a pot farm and hang out with pedophiles and children. Stick around.
Free speech lives on. Free speech lives on. Right here on Pursuit of Happiness Radio.
All right, now we are clear for just 1 second here. Before we start our next segment, a quick reminder to all of you beautiful people out there. Let me see if I can pull. I have a flyer for it if I could find it. Tomorrow night, I am going to be in the Woodlands with Chad Prather and my buddy Steve Toth. There we go. No, that's not it. That's me and Steve Toth on the radio last week. Look how handsome we are. Steve is on the radio with me. He'll be on the radio with me today at 3:15 on 9:50 a.m. here in Houston, Texas, talking about how Steve, I don't know if you guys have heard, Steve is going to primary Dan Crenshaw. Join us tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 7 p.m. That is going to be a ton of fun. Chad Prather and I and Jesse Payton have a comedy show coming up in October together. I'll tell you guys more about that. That's going to be in the Houston area. But right now, what you really want to do is get to Grace Church in the Woodlands. Grace Woodlands Church. Have you ever been up there before? Where do you go to church at?
Right now I'm going to Houston's First Baptist, but I used to live not far from there. I used to pass it all the time going to the mall.
Yeah? You would go to the mall instead of going to church, Ethan?
No, that's not what I said.
All right, hang on, everybody. We're going back on the air right now. Stick around. Hold on. All right, this is exciting. Job-seeking websites like Indoor and Glassdoor just cut 1,300 new jobs, or 1,300 jobs. So they're job-seeking websites that just laid off 1,300 people, 1,300 jobs gone. Or as indeed in Glassdoor, like I had, they created 1,300 new customers. That's fantastic. Hi, everybody. I'm Kenny Webster. Welcome back. Like a lot of you, I looked at what happened in California last week, and I scratched my head. How is it that Gavin Newsom, the California governor, who's trying to position himself as something of a moderate as we get closer and closer to 2028, our next presidential cycle, and, of course, the midterms yesterday, it's very important to these Democrats. They don't look like extreme commie pinkos. All you got to do is be normal. Just be normal for a few minutes. Don't be a crackpot, crazy pinko commie. That's all we're asking of you. And Gavin Newsom's like, I can do it. They're like, Gavin, just seem like an average, relatable person. Cool, no problem. Gavin, when something happens with Donald Trump, be critical, but don't be hyperbolic or crazy. He goes, no problem. So a weed farm gets busted where there are children and pedophiles working. And Gavin Newsom goes, stop everything. This is oppression. You can't stop these children from doing slave labor and not allow them to be near these pedophiles. Ethan Buchanan is here right now from KTRH News, and we're just reacting to the news that a child sex predator, or predators, were among the 361 illegal migrants who were arrested in raids. You all heard it was a marijuana farm. It was 2 marijuana farms in South California last week. I'm a liberty Republican. I'm very much pro let the gay men protect their marijuana crops with AR-15s. I don't have a problem with that. I don't care who you marry, as long as there aren't kids involved. But in this, there are kids involved. This is clearly, I mean, you wouldn't want a child working at a bourbon distillery, right? You wouldn't want a kid working in an OnlyFans photo shoot. So why would it be okay if kids were working on a marijuana farm, much less a marijuana farm with pedophiles? Ethan, well, how long have you worked at the marijuana farm for?
Well, they fired me from the marijuana farm. I kept trying to treat it like eucalyptus. I thought it worked the same. It doesn't.
What? How does eucalyptus work? What are you talking?
You just suck on them leaves, and it'll get the koalas high.
But does it do that to humans?
I have no clue what it
I don't
does
know.
to humans.
I would guess it
I don't
doesn't.
know. Probably not. I would be surprised if it does. It could be poisonous. I think it's poisonous for most creatures. But anyway, yeah, the point being, you're exactly right. The amount of crazy that the left is letting loose here, I think it's a symptom of the fact that their only political platform, their only plank right now is oppose whatever Donald Trump is doing. So if Donald Trump is busting pedophiles and child labor rings, all of a sudden the Democrats come out in favor of pedophile and child labor rings.
All right, so take a look at this guy. This is one of the child predators that was at the marijuana farm, where not only was he working illegally in the country, but he was working with children, Ethan. I mean, I don't want to
Illegal
beat
alien
this horse
children.
to death too badly here, but doesn't that seem kind of obvious that that's a problem? Why would Gavin Newsom before that?
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of why, like, obviously, mass illegal immigration is a threat to citizens. It's a threat to Americans. It's also a threat to the illegal aliens.
Right.
Because you have kids as young as 14 who are illegal aliens working on this farm with pedophiles. You think those kids aren't at risk?
I know it's not fair, but whenever you see a photo of a pedophile, their mugshot, and it's not fair, but whenever you see a picture of a pedophile, your first thought is always, oh yeah, that's what a pedophile looks like. That's all it is. It's just a seemingly average-looking Hispanic dude wearing a crew neck sweatshirt. But when you look at him, immediately you're like, yeah, definitely a pedophile. And we don't know
Guilty.
that. We don't. Yeah. Right. I mean, he feels guilty. It feels like he has the, the essence of guilt there on him. So 361 illegal aliens, including criminals with convictions for rape, kidnapping, child molestation, burglary, hit and run, DUI. Gavin Newsom is A-OK with this. Let's listen to a little bit of this here. Is this, I'm not getting any audio for some reason. Is this, I think
it should be audio.
I'm sure it's me. I don't know why I'm not hearing it. Is it, it's possible that my computer's not working correctly. Did the computer just crap out on us? It does that sometimes. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. All of a sudden,
it's one of the blonde chicks on Fox.
we were going to play a soundbite here of a blonde woman on Fox. Very pretty woman, too.
Well, of course, it's a blonde woman on Fox.
I know. They have a lot of pretty blonde. Instead, let's talk about a different clip. Here is a clip of a white truck driving by a Los Angeles ICE protester, throwing massive rocks straight into the driver's side window. A lot of our listeners have probably seen this on social media already, but did they eventually arrest this guy? What happened with this dude?
I have no idea. It's one of those things where you almost have, protection of the crowd, right? Like the only evidence is you have one cell phone video of, a crowd of 20 or 30 people, and out from the crowd comes a rock. Even if you could identify these people, there's no way to really conclusively prove, yes, this is the guy who threw the rock. But what's even crazy is the fact that they're being so openly violent against law enforcement. Like they're throwing huge rocks here at these cars. There's an article, a little aerial footage showing one guy pulling a gun and shooting at these ICE officers. And, we can't even enforce the laws anymore.
Right.
Without California becoming a legitimate war zone, because these protesters have been so enabled by the radical Democrats who, again, their only platform is oppose Trump at all costs, even if that means legitimate attempted murder.
Right. I'm going to own this, by the way. The reason the audio wasn't working is because I had the computer muted, so that was my bad. Sorry, everybody. But anyway, we got it working, so the audio is working now. There's so many people in California that are just bending over, and I mean elected officials, bending over backwards right now to make themselves look ridiculous.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom's a great example. Karen Bass is another one of these people standing in the way of ICE agents in a public park, trying to stop people from getting busted. One of my favorite ones so far this year, and again, this news cycle moves so fast you forget about these people. This is Cynthia Gonzalez, vice mayor of Cudahy, California. Cudahy, it's a small town in the LA area, now under federal investigation after she encouraged Latin King gang members to go out and violently attack ICE agents. At least that's what it seems like she's doing. And once again, the audio again not working. There we go. Turned on.
In Los Angeles, 18th Street, Florencia. Where's the leadership at? Because you guys are all about territory, and this is 18th Street, and this is Florencia. You guys tag everything up, claiming hood. And now that your hood's being invaded by the biggest gang there is, there ain't a peep out of you. It's everyone else who's not about the gang life that's out there protesting and speaking up.
It bothers me so much how she talks like it's a combination between a Chola and a Kardashian.
Yeah.
Every statement is, at the end of it, she's asking a question. Where are the gang members? You guys are all about your territory. Hey, what is going? You're an elected official, lady. Can you just talk like an adult for 5 seconds? I mean, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, and this video went super viral, which means one of two things is going to happen. Kamala Harris is going to start doing that voice.
Oh, God.
Or Jasmine Crockett is going to start doing that voice. One of the two.
All right, here's another one I just stumbled onto.
Oh, is that Megamind?
No. Who's Megamind? Who's that? Is
Have you not
that a
seen,
meme?
It's the big guy with the blue head.
Oh, that's right. No, you're right. He does look like Megamind, doesn't he? No, this is Omar Fattah. Omar Fattah is running for Minneapolis mayor. We're leaving. I'm going to put this on the screen here. I'm about to play, for those of you listening on the radio, I'm about to play some audio here of a young man who apparently is a lawmaker in Minneapolis. He's now running for Minneapolis mayor, and I get the impression he is same ethnicity as Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, he looks
Somalian.
like one of her husbands.
Right, husband, I think is what you meant to say.
Yeah.
It's okay, common mistake, I get that. Let me make sure the audio is turned up here.
Everyone keeps asking me, Omar, why aren't you doing more videos? As a state senator with a second full-time job and a kid on the way, I just haven't been able to find.
All right, it's doing that thing where it only plays out of one ear, so I don't know if people on the radio can hear it, but let me just explain what's going on here. The guy is running for mayor of Minneapolis, and what he's talking about is, if you elect me to be the mayor of Minneapolis, I will use the Minneapolis Police Department to stop ICE agents. Now, isn't this the real insurrection? Forget about January 6th for a minute, Ethan. If you're running for office and telling people if they vote for you, you will stop laws from being enforced by the federal government, the democratically elected leaders of the federal government will be prevented from doing their job. If you let me hold a position in the small municipal government, isn't that the real insurrection?
Yeah, I hate to sound like an alarmist or, a sensationalist, because I think history shows that 9 times out of 10 things turn out to be just fine. But it seems like what the left is pushing here is a legitimate civil war, too. They're very openly saying, hey, we want all of these armed gangs and thugs in Los Angeles. We want our law enforcement in Minneapolis to directly oppose whatever federal law enforcement is doing up to the point of violence. I don't know what you would call that other than saying, hey, we want to have another civil war.
It certainly sounds that way, right? I don't know what it means, Ethan, but a lot more people are chiming in to make comments about illegal immigrants at the border than about Israel earlier in the comment section of our live stream right now, which I think kind of speaks to the point I was making earlier.
That's it.
Well,
it's almost like people care more about this.
Well, I mean, certainly it affects them. Let's see. Kill Me or You Die on YouTube says, that's his name, I'm not saying that, says, I think liberals would abort a 5-year-old. Probably right about that.
That's true.
Liam O'Connor on Facebook says, Democrats looked ridiculous long before the ICE raids. Kyle says, hello. What's up, Kyle? Good to see you, bro. Let's see. Kill Me or You Die on YouTube says, someone worthwhile needs to run against our lieutenant governor. That'd be Dan Patrick. What do young Zoomer conservatives think of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick right now?
I don't think any single person in the entire state of Texas cared at all about him or who he was until, for no particular reason at all, he started pushing this THC ban. Like, he went, for no particular reason, from being somebody that everybody was kind of neutral towards to being the most hated figure in Texas politics, and he had no reason to do that.
Something I don't understand about Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, I was never a fan, but then back during the pandemic, he started saying things I was saying. He started taking positions I was taking. I thought, wow, maybe I misunderstood Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Maybe he really is a freedom liberty guy. Maybe he is a small government guy. And then a little bit of time passes, and here we are now, and he's standing in the parking lot of a strip mall telling me that low-grade THC gummy worms are going to kill my grandma and make me want to jump in front of a train. The dude has absolutely lost his mind. Roger says you're on point. Thanks, Roger. Ben says making California China again. That is exactly what they're doing. Just getting caught up here. That's right. You know that soundbite? That's a funny sound effect, but it's racist for some reason.
I married a Chinese woman. I have a pass.
You've got the pass.
Yeah.
Right. I appreciate that. Another YouTube commenter says, bro, I'm pro-American, grow clean, healthy pot too, but these Chinese and Mexican cartel pot farmers are bad news. Look into it. I agree. Ben says, need to charge the mayor and governor as accessories to the crime they're allowing to happen. I think Ben on Facebook is talking about California, and I would agree with him on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're pushing for people to do violence, openly saying go do violence, and then they do violence, that's pretty clearly incitement.
Certainly seems that way. Simon on X says USAID funded the protesters. Yeah, remember, a lot of that money that USAID was giving out was going to political action groups or activists.
Where did the pallets of bricks comes from? It came from your wallet. That's where it came from.
And not shockingly, George Soros was connected to a lot. We learned that.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah, who would have guessed? LAPD needs to quit and become federal agents, says Ben on Facebook. Alice on X says, hello, Kenny and Ethan. Hey, follow my buddy Ethan on X.
Hey, guys.
How do we find you on social media?
_ Ethan Buchanan. Buchanan is spelled Buchanan. And Ethan, there's one way to spell that. So if you can't figure it out, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, don't feel too bad. And I'm Kenny Webster. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Join me tomorrow night at Grace Woodlands Church with my buddy Chad Prather. State Representative Steve Toth is going to be, it is official now, he is going to be primarying Dan Crenshaw. We finally have a real candidate in this race, so we can ignore all the grifters and the losers and the rhinos and what have you. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Join me at 3 p.m. on KPRC Radio in Houston, Texas. Have a great afternoon, y'all. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning for more of what you bought a radio for.
You are listening to the Pursuit of Happiness Radio. Tell the government to kiss your ass when you listen to the show.
The gigantic government sucks. Pursuit of Happiness Radio.